Good evening, good evening, good evening to you, all dear folks or kind folks of St. Kitts and Nevis, also in the Leeward Islands. Good evening to everyone in the OECS, and of course, good evening to everyone in the Caribbean. And as we step further afield, we say good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world of ours, according to your respective time zones. And welcome to another edition of On the Ball here at WinFM 98.9. I am Troy Biff Mills, your host, and I'm hoping we're going to have a very good time here tonight. We have a packed set of people coming in, a packed list of guests, and we already have one in the studio. Inspector Bergen, he is here. And he is going to be telling us something about the security forces. He's part of that entity. But before we get to him, and then, well, we're going to have the St. Kitts and Nevis Basketball Association. One guest is already here. And about 8 o'clock, we're going to have Mr. Sean Seabrooks and Dr. Dwayne Archibald. And they're going to be talking about anti-doping. What they're doing. Mr. Sean Seabrooks, he's a part of the St. Kitts and Nevis's anti-doping secretariat, and he's also the focal point on anti-doping here in St. Kitts and Nevis. He recently returned from a meeting in Jamaica with the minister responsible for sports, the Honorable Samuel Duggins. There were a few other ministers, but Sean is going to tell us all about that. And Dr. Dwayne Archibald, he is the representative for the St. Kitts and Nevis Olympic Committee with reference to anti-doping. And he too recently returned from a Train the Trainers workshop in Aruba. So he's going to give us a little update about that. But hey, we get cracking right away. We know there is some football happening. The Department of Sports, they are having some football league happening. And we're going to be getting some information from them. We don't know if we'll have it in time for the show tonight, but before it ends. But we'll wait and see. And the cricket match as well, the Leeward Islands tournament, that is going to be starting here in St. Kitts, as well as a few other venues. It's all happening, kicking off to a start on Friday the 7th to the 10th. Guyana Harpy Eagles, they're going to be playing Trinidad and Tobago Red Force at the Connery Sports Complex. The Leeward Island Hurricanes, they are going to be engaging the West Indies Academy at Warner Park. And the West Indies Academy, they are actually here already. They have started a practice match against the Leeward Islands Hurricanes. Also from the 7th to the 10th, Barbados Pride, they will be coming up against combined campuses and colleges in Chedwin Park, Spanish Town. And then the Jamaica Scorpions, and that's in Trinidad. Jamaica Scorpions would be hosting Windward Island Volcanoes at Sabina Park. That is round 1. So 3-4 heavy matches going to be happening there. Then the Leeward Islands, they will be engaging the Guyana Harpy Eagles at Warner Park on Valentine's Day, the 14th to the 17th. And we're going to be having Trinidad and Tobago West Indies Academy at Connery Sports Club. That's here in St. Kitts. And the 14th, Barbados Pride will be taking on Windward Islands Volcanoes at Kensington Park, Kensington in Barbados. Jamaica Scorpions will be doing battle against combined campuses and colleges in Sabina Park. And the Leeward continues again the following weekend, the 21st to the 24th, at Warner Park versus Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. The West Indies Academy, they and Guyana Harpy Eagles are going to travel to Coolidge Cricket Ground in Antigua. And the Jamaican Scorpions are going to be taking on Barbados Pride at Sabina Park in Kingston. And the last round of matches for that week, the 21st to the 24th, Chedwin Park, Spanish Town will host Windward Island Volcanoes and the combined campuses. So a lot of cricket happening. And listening to the pundits, there's the view that these teams are going to be playing 5 matches, semi-finals and finals, so that's about 7 matches max. And these are the matches that will be used to select the squads for the West Indies senior team. And hence, the West Indies team playing 7 matches. Is that enough? Should there be 2 rounds? Should there be 3 rounds? Well, then you're going to pick a team playing 7 matches to be going up against countries playing, I don't know, 20-yard, 30-yard matches a year. What would be the expectation? Would our players be very sharp? How sharp would they be? These are questions persons are asking. And we're going to get someone in a little while down the road to discuss these kind of things. Again, you're listening to On the Ball here at Win FM 98.9. I'm Troy Biff Mills, the host. And we're going to be going until 9 o'clock. We thank you for listening. And we appreciate any callers, 466-9586. Or you could send us a WhatsApp, 668-2055. We are being streamed on the Win FM Facebook link as well as the Win FM YouTube link. So you could log on there and you'll be able to see the show happening live and direct. And in terms of sponsorship, well, we don't have a sponsor at the moment, and that is critical. That is necessary for the program to continue. So we are appealing, we are urging, we are asking any entities, individuals who would want to see the sports program continue to give the marketing department 466-9586 here at Win FM 98.9 a shout, or you can give yours truly, Troy Biff Mills, a shout as well. So we have about 16 minutes past 7. I will now join the studio 2 and say good night to Inspector Bergen. Good night, sir. How are you? Welcome to Win FM 98.9 and On the Ball.
Good evening, Mr. Mills, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Good evening to all in Radio Land, those of us listening via the internet or any other social media means. Good evening to all.
Thank you for taking time out, Mr. Bergen, to be with us here this evening. You're not here, this is a sports program, so clearly you're not here in your capacity as a police officer for some 35 years. And I must congratulate you, being in the police, your career for 35 years today, if I'm not mistaken.
Quite correct, Mr. Mills, and I give God all the glory for sustaining me for the last 35 years. I entered the police force as a youngster, just out of high school, back in 1989, and I'm still here. God has been good.
It looked like you ain't even lose your baby, your mother features yet, as old people would say. But
thank you.
Yeah, you look like you're 20-yard, 30-yard, never mind to be serving 35 years. Well,
thank
congratulations, nonetheless.
Thank you, Mr. Mills.
And I know you have, right now you're stationed at the prosecution unit. You're in charge of prosecutions in the Basti area, if I'm not mistaken?
Correct. I work out of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, right next door. Okay. Right there at the old Clico building. That's where we're located, yes.
Okay, definitely. So congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you.
Let's talk sports. Security Forces Football United, they played in the Premier Division of the St. Kitts and Nevis Football Association last year, and they were not able to stay up.
Quite correct, Mr. Mills. The Security Forces United Football Club is a up-and-coming club, and I'm here on behalf of the club. I apologize for the absence of the president. We just installed a new president, a new executive. The president is Mr. Marvin Payne. He's a soldier in the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force. The Security Forces, basically, we encompasses the national security framework of St. Kitts and Nevis, where our members are primarily from the National Security Forces framework, police force, defense force, fire department, immigration, and we have a core of civilians who form part of our club as well. I myself, one of the longest, if not the longest member of the club presently, and I've been there in thick and in thin. Over the years, I've been there from since 1991 as a player, then went up to be a coach, then went up to management. So I'm still with the club, and I'm supporting. I'm here to support the club as long as I remain a police officer, and even when I leave the police force, I will still be a part of the whole security forces setup. But I'm here to speak about.
Just before you get into what
yes.
you speak about, I couldn't help but remember you said you've been with the security forces 1991.
Quite correct, yes.
And that would have been a few years after you would have gotten into the football.
Yes.
I can't help but remember in the 1985, 1986, somewhere down there, when you joined the Crab Hill Football Club, which was then sponsored by Scantel, which went on to be Cable and Wireless.
Yes.
And the first time you pin up your boots, you pin them up wrong. Put them on the wrong foot, all kind of things. So we had to tell you why in the bargain, you're pinning up you're lacing up your shoes wrong. So that was your introduction into football.
Yeah, that is why grassroots football is so important. We started at an earlier age now.
Yes. It's been a long journey with the Crab Hill Sports Club out of Sandy Point. We once hosted apart from the football, the Easter Rama.
Correct.
In Sandy Point on the Easter weekend. And but tell us about the security forces. That's another discussion for another day.
So I'm here to promote, and I'm here on behalf of the Security Forces United Football Club. You rightly indicated that we were just relegated from the Premier Division. Our senior team has just been relegated from the Premier Division, and then we are now preparing for the Division 1 tournament, which we are hoping the main objective is to win the Premier, the Division 1 and go back to the Premier and hopefully stay up there. But I'm here to speak about the youth arm of the security forces tonight. We have a youth arm which involves our grassroots program and our U13 and U15 youths. But we are hosting a grassroots clinic coming up this Thursday, the 1st of February. It's going to be held at Warner Park, and it's going to kick off around 4:30 p.m. We're going to have a small opening ceremony, and we're going to have with us a guest coach out of New York. His name is Ryan Bosick. He's no stranger to St. Kitts and Nevis. He actually went to school here at Ross University while he was here back in 2006, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, interesting.
And so we would have had that relationship with Ryan. He would have played in the Premier Division back then for Canary FC, but he also represented the security forces in the Village League. We had 2 seasons with him in the Village League, but his main club in St. Kitts and Nevis was in the Premier Division with Canary Football Club. So he has a long-standing relationship with football here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Ryan was also a youth national team coach while he was here on the island.
Okay.
Going to school for us. He holds presently a UEFA A license, and he is the technical director for the West New York Flash Soccer Academy, a youth coach in Rochester, New York. And he is in the Caribbean. He just held a similar activity in Anguilla on Sunday, where I just spoke with him earlier today. He had 65 children on Sunday for a whole day clinic from 9 to 3 p.m. And he told me it was a wonderful activity. So we are hoping to, while he's in St. Kitts, he should be flying in tomorrow. Okay. And we will be having the grassroots. We are hoping to accommodate about 50 to 60 children as well here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We are partnering with the youths of Canary because of the commitment and the partnership he has with Canary. So the youths from Canary Fireballs, they're going to be attending the clinic as well as our youths that we have in our grassroots and youth program. So at the end of the day, we should be having about 50 to 60, the more 65 as well, children. And we are going to be having our coaches as well to assist Ryan because in youth coaching, it's best to have 10 children, 10 youths with one coach, rather than to have 20 children with one coach. It's not feasible to manage 20 children in a group. So 10 children to one coach. So we're hoping to have a coach per 10 children at the event coming up on Thursday in Warner Park. We are partnering with the Department of Sports, and I wanted to thanks to the Ministry Department of Sports, the director in particular, Mr. Jeffrey Hazel, for assisting us with the facility and any other support that we can get from the sports department will be very important, right? So we're inviting the general public to come out and see. It's the first ever grassroots clinic that will be held in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we are looking forward to having our guest coach out of New York, Ryan Barsig, here to facilitate this grassroots clinic coming up on Thursday.
Well, you mentioned 50 to 60 children, was it?
Yes.
And they're specifically from the Connery region in particular, or are you going to be looking at the majority of them from Connery and maybe a few from neighboring environs?
Well, we have reached out to a couple of other clubs. We have reached out to Saddlers. We have reached out to Garden Hotspurs. We have reached out to Molyneux. But our main focus is we're not going to turn back anyone, but we don't want to go beyond 60 children, right? So hopefully the coaches from these clubs, if they're going to be participating, we invite them to come to assist with getting involved to see grassroots coaching at a different level. And Ryan is a very methodical and experienced youth coach. As I just indicated, he's currently the youth coach of the year for the whole of New York State.
Wow, okay.
Right?
That is
and
good
so
stuff.
he's been doing some great works since going back to the United States from St. Kitts. So that is the position we're looking at come this Thursday.
And is he going on to Nevis by chance, or is it just St. Kitts and then heading back home?
It's just St. Kitts, and he flies back on the weekend. So he should be leaving here on Saturday. So he will just have some time. As a matter of fact, we should be meeting up tomorrow at Spratnet just to see a bit of the island, just to reminisce and to, touch bases. We should be having meeting up at Spratnet tomorrow. And then Friday, maybe we do something else, and then he leaves on Saturday, right? Ryan has also been giving back to football here in St. Kitts and Nevis. On 2 occasions, we have received a supply of boots from him, as well as Connery. I believe that he'll be coming in with 33 pairs of boots for our youths here in St. Kitts and Nevis tomorrow.
Okay.
A donation should be made to the Department of Sports for those 33 pairs of boots. As you know, the Department of Sports just completed a very excited school league, and so we believe that grassroots is the foundation for football going forward, and so we want our youths to become involved in football at an early age, rather than waiting until they are almost finished with high school to take part in football.
Are there any plans, as early as it may be, to perhaps say, okay, 1, look at next year's program, and 2, expand it? Any discussion starting on that as yet, or would that be determined, in a sense, based on the success of this one?
That will be determined on the success of this one coming up, but we are looking forward that this will springboard a bigger grassroots program going forward. Just this afternoon, I was explaining to Ryan, because he was telling me Anguilla from his program Sunday Gone, they're looking to have a Sunday grassroots every Sunday going forward, so that next year when he comes back, he will have over 100 kids.
Okay.
So we are trying also to replicate that, and we have been in talks with the Department of Sports to see how we can partner to bring back grassroots football on a Saturday in St. Kitts.
You're listening to On the Ball here on Win FM 98.9. I am Troy Biff Mills, your host. We have in the studio Mr. John Bergen, an inspector by profession, but he's here, however, in his capacity as a member of the Security Forces United Football Club, and he's talking to us at a camp that they're going to be having.
A clinic.
Different to a camp. Well,
yes, a clinic. It's a one-day clinic.
You would have had a camp last year, the Security Forces, did you?
Yes, we did had an enormous, a humongous camp, 2 weeks camp for the summer last year, where we had some coaches out of the United States and the UK. And we're hoping to replicate that summer camp again this year. We already began talks with a number of coaches and scouts who will be coming in to look at our talent here and hopefully offer a pathway for our youths. We see that many times our youths are going down the wrong road, and this is a program, and the police force right now is embarking on its expanding its community policing programs in the communities, and this is one way that we want to reach our youths through sports by creating that pathway in soccer.
Okay, and what sort of figures you would have had last year?
We had 214 registrants, but on average, the highest count we had on any one day was 186 children, but our average would have been leveled off like 142 every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of all the registrants, 200 and how much you said? 14
registrants. Yes.
I guess they would have attended at some point per se. So would it be safe to say most or all of the 214 would have attended, though maybe only 1 day, 2 days?
About 206 of them would have attended.
Okay.
At some point. Some of them had to come the first week and then travel the next week because summer. Some of them didn't come the first week, but they came the second week. Yes. So in total, we had about 206 youths. That's youths between the ages of 7 and 15, and then we had the senior arm, where we had about 25 coming out to be scout to go to the United States. And we had one youth. He was identified, but unfortunately, he did not get over the hurdle of the U.S. From the U.S. Embassy visa to go to the States, and so it was very unfortunate that he did not get to go. He had already gotten the commitment letter and everything from the school. He had everything organized, but he was not given the student visa in Barbados.
Wow. Very
disappointing. But we are working again assiduously to bring back the summer camp this year, and we are looking at a bigger number. We are planning for 250 children.
Wow.
So we're gonna just be rolling out just now. We're gonna be asking for volunteers. We're gonna be asking for coaches to come on board. We're gonna be asking, reaching out to our business partners, and hopefully we can have another successful summer camp. Hopefully maybe at a different venue this year. Warner Park was not available last year, but we are hoping that.
Where was it held last?
It was held at Flow Grounds last year.
Okay.
For the 2 weeks. We also went across to Nevis, and we had a weekend at Nevis, which was also engaging and exciting with over 75 children gathering in Nevis.
That is separate and apart to the average you mentioned in St. Kitts?
Yes, that was separate and apart. We got the Bath players youths from Bath's football team and Hard Times as well came over at the Monday track to take part in the grassroots at the summer camp, and also for scouts to look at.
So you're basically saying you had 75 and 206, like 281 children exposed to that both camps, St. Kitts and Nevis.
I
last year.
estimated about 300 lives we would have touched
Wow.
during that 2 weeks, including the seniors.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, or 300.
That's wonderful for
Yes.
your first year.
For our first year, yes.
And you're saying 250 as opposed to 350.
As opposed to 350, yes.
Well, suppose you were to have approached that hurdle again next year, Godspeed, in terms of the student visa. Well, I should say, do you perceive you will be having that experience again? And if so, what are the plans to deal with it, to get over that hurdle?
As I said, we have already begun, and that's a good question, Mr. Mills. As I said, we have already begun the talks. We have already had, just weekend gone, I had a meeting with two of the coordinators there overseas. They are already in the U.S. They're speaking with congressmen in the U.S. so that we can get past that hurdle the next time around later this year, that we don't have to go through that again. So they're talking to their congressmen in the United States so that the congressmen can reach out to the U.S. Embassy to explain what we're trying to do down here.
That's a very high level.
Yes.
That your folks are taking it.
Yes.
Taking that.
We did it last year, but it was a last minute when the athlete was already turned down. We were trying to get it overturned, but it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
But we now have a head start where, we're gonna be ironing out things before the summer camp so that youths that are identified, and we're not just gonna be scouting for universities and junior college, but also for high schools. If a child between the age of 15 and 17 have talent and can end up in a high school, be placed in a home, a safe home, and the parents down here want to assist the child, make it possible for the child to go, all that we are working on.
In terms of SAT exams, would that be a factor?
No, I think they have moved away from the SAT as one of the requirements of getting into to colleges now.
Okay.
There's a new system. I'm not too familiar with it, but that is what I was told, that the SATs are not really reliable anymore. Not that you shouldn't do it, but it's not the main prerequisite to get into to a university or college.
Is there anything, as we're about to wrap up, Mr. Borgan, that you'll want to remind the listeners?
I just want to say to St. Kitts and Nevis, the listening public, even in the diaspora, the Security Forces United Football Club, we are embarking on a new journey of youth involvement, youth engagement, as part of our community policing agenda. And anyone who is listening to me and wants their kids to play football in a safe environment, having fun, and learning discipline, learning life skills, they can always reach out to any member of the security forces, myself, to join our grassroots program, because that's where we're starting from, grassroots. Grassroots football is basically children between the ages of 5 and 12, just playing football, learning the game, having fun. We are open, and we are open for registration of anyone who wants their children to, as I said, to be in a safe environment. We provide a safe environment, fun, and a pathway, not just coming to play football, but we're creating a pathway. Our program has been in place now since 2018. And I want to thank Flo for allowing us to use their facilities since 2018. We have been there, and we have grown over the years. We started with about 26 children, and now we have over 65.
Oh, wow.
Right, and so some of these children, they have gone on to high school. They're doing well. You're not hearing anything about them antisocial-wise.
No, which is good.
They're still with us, and that is what we're trying to do. And we're going to build on the program. We're trying to create that pathway so that they not just come and play with us, but at least they can have an opportunity to go to the United States and go to school if they wish, grow up, and with the hope of playing for the national team.
Is there a registration fee, and also is there a monthly subscription, for want of a better expression?
Well, fortunately, there's no registration fee at this time for our grassroots. We have partnered with the Seventh-day Adventists because as part of FIFA CONCACAF club licensing, you must, as a football club in St. Kitts and Nevis, you must adopt a school. Well, we're not a school we're not a club from out of a community. Our community is the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis, so we had to find not a village school, but a school that has no village connection. And so the only one that was available to us at the time was the Seventh-day Adventist Primary, and so we are happy that we have been partnering with them since 2018. They have afforded us the opportunity to develop their students, and we are very appreciative of them. And we're going to continue. We are in the process now of forming under 12 girls team.
Wow, that's interesting.
And also,
could I have my daughter play, or she has to go to the
no, she can join.
Okay, wonderful.
She can join. And also we're trying to have a senior female team this year in the league. I understand tomorrow is the deadline for registration of clubs and teams, and so that is the part that is why I said that Security Forces United is one of the fastest developing programs here in St. Kitts and Nevis in football. And so I'm encouraging anyone who wants to come on board, whether as a player, as a coach, as a management, to come on board, give us a call, and we don't turn back people. We welcome everyone, right? And so I'm looking forward to bigger and better things down the road. We're looking forward to our Saturday morning grassroots, our summer camp, and the leagues that are about to start just now, right? So I want to say thanks to you, Mr. Mills, and for your radio program, On the Ball. I also want to thank Win FM for affording me this opportunity to come here just to update the Federation on what is happening with grassroots football.
And of course, it's free.
It's free, of course. Yes. And again, I want to say thanks to the management, the executive, the coaching staff of the security forces for the job that they're doing, and the players as well, and also the Department of Sports for partnering with us on this initiative. So I'm looking forward to Thursday, and hopefully I can come back and update you at a later date as to how the clinic went.
We appreciate that, but what number could the persons contact for any information to partner with you?
Okay, so my numbers are 664-6969, or my work number is 662-1180. You can also reach out to the club secretary. Her name is Miss Lois. Her number is 663-5168. She's the main contact for the club. So, yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, Mr. Borgon, and congratulations on your initiatives that you have had in the past, the one you're working with. And who knows, we might be able to pop up and visit you and interview one or two of the children, find out how they're doing, etc., etc. And you have any children participating in the camp, the 5 to 12, Mr. Borgon?
No, I am a grandfather now, so.
Okay. But
I'm a grandfather now.
We thank you, and we thank the security forces, and we extend best wishes for you with the camp you're going to be having, the clinic you're going to be having, and then the camp you're working on towards the summer. And obviously, in terms of the participation in the SKNFA League,
thank you.
Hope that you'll be able to win the first division, be promoted to the Premier, and stay up there and eventually win the championship up there.
The future is not just the Premier Division. The future right now for security forces is Caribbean football, CONCACAF Caribbean football.
You're thinking big, man, very big.
Yeah, the skies is not the limit anymore. The universe is the limit. So
wow,
move beyond the skies. You got to go beyond the universe now. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Mills, for having me. Thank you, Jamster, for working in the background. Good night, and God bless.
That was Mr. John Bergen of the Security Forces United Football Club. and briefing us about a clinic they're going to be having. And we thank you very much. We're going to be having some basketball coming up now, the St. Kitts and Nevis Amateur Basketball Association. And we're going to take a little 30 seconds to rearrange the room. And as we wish Mr. Bergen all the best, he and his club. Stay tuned, don't go away. We'll be right back here on the ball at WinFM 98.9. You're listening to On the Ball here at WinFM 98.9. I am Troy Biff Mills, your host, and we thank you for being a part with us. 466-0989, the number to call. If should you have any suggestions, any recommendations, you need any clarification, don't be shy, give us a call. We'll entertain it, and we'll entertain all sporting questions. There isn't any specific topic we are limited to. We are now going to be talking basketball, but you can still call, ask a question, seek some clarification, extend congratulations to the West Indies for pulling victory from the jaws of defeat, as it were. A lot of discussion. Shama Joseph, the youngster rising star, he's going off to, well, he's basically on sick leave because of the toe. And because of that toe injury, he was warned by or encouraged by Kemar Roach to build his legacy before being distracted, for want of a better expression, with T20 cricket. And Shama himself said, yes, he's not going to let T20 get in the way of him playing for the West Indies. And speaking of T20, he has been ruled out of the IL-T20, that's in the United Arab Emirates, because of the toe injury. So he's not going to be taking part of that. And he would have had a chance to make his debut and riding on his luck of the man of the match and man of the series against the Aussies down in Australia. 27 years. Victory, the first time in 27 years the West Indies beating Australia. In Australia. 21 years beating Australia anyway, but 27 beating them in Australia. And the team that included a squad that included 7 debutants. And this youngster, Shamar Joseph, having played only 5 first-class matches before he would have been selected to the West Indies. A lot of us can't help but wonder if he were from St. Kitts and Nevis, Jamster, if he would have been selected, given that opportunity to say, hey, baptism by fire. Jamster shakes his head in the negative, and I'm fully supportive of him. I don't believe if he was from St. Kitts, he would have gotten that opportunity. But nonetheless, we're here. We are talking basketball now. We have our guest, one of our 2 guests in the studio, and we go live to Studio B to say good night. So welcome to On the Ball here on Win FM 98.9.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be on the ball.
I like that, On the Ball. And tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Oh, okay. My name is Gavin Bell. I'm currently the Public Relations Officer for the St. Kitts Nevis Amateur Basketball Association.
Okay, that's wonderful. Your youth league kicked off as recently as Saturday.
Yeah.
And if it's one thing I know, the Rams flew the Falcons out of SP, where the best be there, the defending champions.
Here we go. Yes.
And they're looking to back-to-back, I'm hearing.
Well, that's the talk, especially from the team official who should be joining me shortly, Sean Crosley, aka Bucksy. They actually were in a pretty interesting. Actually, no, my mistake. They actually had their first game on Saturday as well, and they made a really good showing of it, winning that one 76-47. Coming up against the other Rams-sponsored team.
Rams Hitters.
Hitters, correct.
The Rams Hitters, they've had a history of, I would dare say, dominating basketball in St. Kitts and Nevis over the last 30, 40 years.
40 years, yeah.
Winning something in...
Talking about Barman and his legacy.
Barman and, yeah.
And their coach, Glenn Phillip. And
exactly.
Mm-hmm. And... thank you to all of our sponsors who've worked with us throughout the years: National Bank, Rams. Everybody who's been around and were able to help, with sponsorship for our team or sponsoring the league. Or I just want to say we do have some sponsorship opportunities available, and we'll be, if you haven't already, It's not an easy thing to keep these leagues going, and in the day and age that we're in right now, we're competing with so many other different things, both in person and online. But we've always managed to be a safe space for young men for the moment, because we are talking about doing more activities for females. A safe space for them to go and participate in some community building exercises. We're playing basketball with their friends and getting those kind of lessons as they're growing up, being a part of a team, understand what it takes to work together to achieve a goal. And like I said, it's not easy to do those things. So we're making a gentle plea, a gentle reminder that if and when the opportunity comes, if you're a former player, a former coach, anything like that, come out and support.
That's wonderful. How many teams do you have in the junior division?
There are 7 teams in the junior division.
7?
This year, yes.
And you could give us an idea who they are, where they're from?
You have the Rams Hitters Juniors. You have the Sandy Point Falcons. You also have the... Oh man, I'm at a loss. You have Youth and Sports Raiders, which is the team out of Nevis. You also have ASC Wolfpack. You have the... I'm missing one, but please don't.
I had off my headset. I don't know if you said Birdrock.
Yes, you also have Birdrock. How can I forget Birdrock? You have Birdrock, and there's one more team that I think I'm missing as well. My apologies if I did.
Tough Nuts would have played.
Tough Nuts Juniors. That's the other team.
They were runners up last year.
Right. They actually had their opening match on Saturday as well, and they had a really decent battle. It actually came down to last minute buzzer beater in the fourth quarter, and Tough Nuts were able to win by 2 points, 92-90, against that same youth and sports team out of Nevis. Correct.
And they've been progressing beautifully, the Nevis team over the years.
Yeah, they have. They've made a really good showing both in the A division and the junior division. We're going to be, if all works as planned, experimented with having games over there as well this season.
I was going to ask that.
In the A division. So in the A?
Well,
yes, in the A division.
Well, actually, I was going to ask about the youth. If you're having any games in Nevis for the youth
at the moment, no. There's not a plan for that. But it's not something that we don't want to happen. It's just a matter of getting all the pieces in play and making sure that we can provide the needed the necessary elements to make that happen.
What was the support like for the opening night?
It was good support. I think we did well. It's the teams and their parents of the children that are playing. They always come out and support. Of course, we can always have a better turnout, but it's free for all. If you were asking, the junior games at least, and it was a good turnout.
There's always a challenge with particularly the fathers. More mothers tend to support children than the fathers. Did you see that? Was
for sure. I think there are a few since my involvement with Scaba, since I've returned with Scanaba, sorry. I think I've seen a different trend. And when was that return? I joined the executive last year. Okay. So I've actually last year, but I was involved with some other stuff with the league before that. But I joined the executive last year. And since I've been reattending games, I think you can say there's a trend to see more involvement in that direction, in a positive direction.
When are your games played?
So we have games on Saturdays and Thursdays, and we have the first game at 7 a.m. and the second game
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Sorry. And we have the second game at 6 p.m. and we have the second game at 7:30 p.m.
Both nights.
Yes, correct. So you get 2 match days per week, and you get 2 matches per each match day.
Mm-hmm. Are you having 1 round or 2 rounds?
No, we do 2 rounds, round robin. So it's going to take us each team is going to play each other twice. Then we go into a round robin playoff, best of 4, and the championship match is decided by the teams who had the best record after that.
You have Birdrock, you have Sandy Point, you have Tough Nuts out of St. Paul's. I don't remember the others. Are you considering having matches in those communities?
For the moment, that's not the consideration. We're trying to put the emphasis on Basketball City, where we can maintain the highest possible product and environment to have our matches. Not that's not a bad idea. It's just, again, the resources necessary to do something like that, to have our referees travel around. Also, we have a playing surface at Basketball City. We want to say thanks to Skelec for helping us sort out our light situation, which was remedied recently, just in time to the start of the league. And moving forward, I think the consensus is that where the games are right now is the best situation.
In terms of age, what is the age range and age limit?
If I'm not mistaken, the age range for the group, for the juniors, is from, I believe, 14 to 21, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
14 to 21. And roughly how many players? Each team, I know you could have a maximum of, for any game, a maximum of 12 players, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is correct. Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the clubs, the teams?
The clubs are able to register. Well, okay. So you have clubs that can register more than one team. I believe each team has up to 21 persons
21
that are able to be registered, correct.
And sponsorship, how is that going? Each
teams are responsible for their own sponsorship. We again thank you to all of the perennial sponsors, Rams and SL Hosford and those entities around. But they're generally responsible for their own sponsorship. We do have league sponsorships available. You can come in and we can help us get the necessary resources that can help us to put on the league and that kind of stuff.
At the end of the league, what can these youngsters look forward to? Is there a regional competition?
Yeah, so
sub-regional?
we took a decision in the one of our executive meetings over the break that we're going to put a big emphasis on trying to expose our players to more regional talents and having them regain our position in the OECS, where we were forced to be reckoned with over the previous decades in the early 80s and 90s. One of the things we've actually decided to do is to host a team from Montserrat, and that team will actually be here. 1 second, let me check my notes. That team will actually be here shortly, and they'll be playing an exhibition game with our junior champions, if I'm not mistaken. Just want to get the exact date for you.
Well, while you look, I know there's some relationship with Montserrat.
Yes.
Because the senior team would have gone down last month, I think it was, December.
In December.
To compete in an invitational and walked away with the championship.
Yeah, with the championship, the MVP. The training squad for that had quite a bit of our young stars as well as a mixture of our veterans. And they were able to really go down and have a good showing in Montserrat. Still looking for that date for you. Sorry, for some reason it's not coming up in my notes.
Maybe because you don't have a Samsung phone.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That might just be it.
But in terms of I understand there's an AGM coming up sometime shortly.
There's a general meeting this Saturday. Yes, correct.
I gather, is it an elective assembly or it's not?
No, it's not an elective. The term, if I'm not mistaken, is for 4 years. And in this go around, we're just going to be updating the clubs on potential rule changes, maybe some training opportunities that we're going to be having, as well as listening to them and their complaints, and we try to adjust, balance going forward based on our experiences last season, some of the things we would have tried to accomplish over the break and that kind of thing.
This is the youth structure. How is basketball in schools going? What is the involvement of Skanaba in terms with the Department of Sports?
So there are quite a few initiatives being set up at the moment, or being talked about now. Nothing actually is put in stone just yet, but I can tell you the plan is from the Skanaba side, and okay, let me don't say that. The plan is from the Skanaba side to work with a few entities that we have good partnerships with. One of them is SKN Moves, as well as the Department of Sports. And we recently, over the break, initiated our FIBA 3-on-3 program.
Sorry, repeat that.
FIBA 3-on-3 program.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So we would have taken a collection of players from the league, from the junior league, from the Premier Division as well, and they would have done some work with Coach Spisa over the summer break, and they would have been able to take part in a few exhibition tournaments which we had, and the tournaments would have led to a national ranking actually, and now we are qualified as an association to host and put on our own 3-on-3 tournament. One of the plans that we're trying to work closely with some of our partners with is to actually extend that program into the schools, and that's where we can have a lot more grassroots involvement and try to rebuild basketball.
Over the years, it has been a challenge in terms of selection of divisions to the national team, St. Kitts and Nevis. Somehow, I'm not certain we are as successful as we can be, and perhaps the divisions would like to be.
Well, I would like to hear a caller calling about that one, because I'm not aware of any biases towards selection or anything like that. I will say though that we do have a representative from the club that participates in SCABA on the executive. She's actually our secretary at the moment.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And she is very involved, as well as the team.
Paris Wanderers?
No, that is a Jakita Thomas.
Oh, okay.
Right. So she would be very involved with the youth and sports program over there, and they again, we've been trying to do our part in expanding our reach to Nevis, and it is the St. Kitts Nevis basketball amateur basketball association, and they have been included in the creation, the selection of the general squads that later turn into these traveling teams. We're going to be doing more traveling coming up in the current year, and the hope is that we can continue down that path.
Well, still a little politics.
What are you really trying to do me tonight? Huh? Okay, no problem. Let's go.
The St. Kitts and Nevis Netball Association. There was the situation where there was the St. Kitts Netball Association and the Nevis Netball Association. But then for competitions, regional and otherwise, they only recognized the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. So they had to amend their constitutions, etc., to be the St. Kitts and Nevis Netball Association. If I'm not mistaken, I'm remembering SCABA, St. Kitts Amateur Basketball Association.
Correct.
And you mentioned St. Kitts and Nevis Amateur Basketball Association. So I'm taking it that you would have gone through a similar thing because there was a Nevis Netball Basketball Association.
And that would have been done before my tenure on the executive. However, if I understand the history of it correctly, the decision was made some time back to actually become a federation, a national federation. I think that has to do a lot with what you just said in terms of how we participated in extra regional tournaments and being able to be recognized by our main sporting body, which is the NOC here. So to be recognized as the regional body, as the local body responsible for our sport, our discipline, we had to become the St. Kitts Nevis Amateur Basketball Association.
Nevis, obviously they're playing basketball. The Nevis Basketball Association, I'm taking that may not necessarily exist now. They have to name it something because you can have this kind of, and you have Nevis.
If I'm not mistaken, there is an entity that that organizes the basketball in Nevis. However, as far as the activity, I'm unsure of if they have anything active at the moment. I do know there is an executive in place. However, and we are in communication from time to time. When they're one of the partners that we're going to be involved with in trying to get some of our games over there this season. However, exactly how active they are at the moment, I really can't speak to.
Okay. Is there anything that perhaps we may not have covered you want to enlighten us?
Just again, a general invitation to everybody out there, if you can hear my voice right now, if you can see me online. We have just started our Junior League, which has 2 games coming up this weekend as well. And we are going to be starting our Premier and A divisions on March 10th. So look out for that. The defending champions, SP with the best speed.
Senior and junior.
Senior and junior champions going to be defending their crowns this season. Coming up against top competition from St. Paul's Tough Nuts, from Bird Rock, from all the challengers out there. I don't think they actually have a team back this year. They still I have to check the registrations. I'm not sure.
Hitters, of course.
Hitters, of course, will be there. Keon has now moved up from the A division to the Premier, so that's going to be an interesting one. They were able to I think run the table last year in the A division, not dropping a game. So that's going to be an interesting variable to the new season in the Premier League, in the Premier Division. Sorry. So come out. It's only $5 for the A and the Premier. You get to see really good quality basketball, and you get to support a local association.
Mr. Bell, we thank you very much for taking your time out to be
thank
with
you
us.
for having me. Thank you for having me.
And you would have been here on behalf of the St. Kitts and Nevis Amateur Basketball Association.
That's correct.
And this is not the first. This is the first, but it's not going to be the last.
Oh no, I'm getting comfortable again.
We look forward to that relationship.
Yes,
and we congratulate you on the work you've been doing with your association. And we wish the St. Kitts and Nevis Amateur Basketball Association all the best. And of course, the 7 teams you mentioned in the
Junior
division. We wish them the best. And at the end of the day, we know Rams, the
Right,
Falcons, they're going to back to back.
Here we go. Here we go.
But
I don't know about that, huh?
well,
I
of
really
course,
don't know about that.
We'll have
but
to wait and see.
It's going to be very interesting.
I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park.
It's going to be very, very interesting because I know St. Paul's is coming.
Definitely. And well, we wish you and your association, your clubs and your leagues all the best, and we look forward to having you here again sometime in the near future.
Real soon. Just call. I'll be there.
Okay, definitely.
All right.
Thanks
for having me.
Oh, our pleasure, sir. You've been listening to Mr. Gavin Bell of the St. Kitts and Nevis Amateur Basketball Association, giving us a little brief about what is happening in their neck of the woods. They would have started a junior competition Saturday. There's some 7 teams there. And the youngsters, they need it. They need to be meaningfully engaged. There need to be interaction between them and the youngsters. And hold 1 second as we go back to Mr. Bell.
Yeah, I neglected to mention the dates for those games where the Montserrat under 25 team will be facing off against our junior division champions. That's Friday the 9th of February. And on Saturday the 10th, they'll be facing off against, you'll have a local match so that Friday night at 7 p.m. you'll have that match with the Montserrat under 25 team. And on Saturday the 6th, you'll have a doubleheader. You'll have the Falcons playing ASC Jayhawks, and then you'll have the under 25 team from Montserrat playing the local under 25 team, the St. Kitts team as well, at 7:30 on the Saturday night.
Okay, wonderful. We wish them all the best. The action is going to be at Basketball City. So we encourage everyone to come on out and support basketball, support the St. Kitts and the Nevis Amateur Basketball Association. Stick and stay, don't go away. Stick and stay, don't go away. We're going to be right back. We're due to have anti-doping, the topic coming up with Mr. Sean Seabooks and Dr. Dwayne Archibald. Welcome back to On the Ball here on WinFM 98.9 with your host Troy Biff Mills. We had security forces, football, we had basketball, and now we're going to be having an entity that ties in both of them, that ties in all sport in the federation. And we have our guests in the studios already, in Studio B. And I don't know if I'm being prejudicial tonight. We didn't have any females jump. I'm just realizing it's all males we had. So we have to work on that jump stuff, getting some more females organized as guests. But we go straight to Studio B. We say good evening. Welcome to WinFM 98.9. And you gentlemen are on the ball.
Good evening, Mr. Mills. And good evening to all the listeners in Radio Land.
Good evening as well. I want to say a special good evening to those who are listening in and participating in tonight's show via social media, via different media platforms, etc. And a special thanks to Mr. Mills for granting us the opportunity to give or disseminate a very important message to our community.
Thank you very much, sir. And could you tell us, please, who you are and your areas of specialty relative to your visit tonight?
Okay, I guess I'll start first. I'm Dr. Dwayne Archibald. In terms of the anti-doping, I'm a doping control officer. That is, I actually assist in taking samples for doping in athletes. Went on to work the administrative part of anti-doping, and as of recently, participated in train the trainers to educate, to disseminate education on anti-doping to athletes and any interested personnel.
Thank you, Doc.
I am Sean Sibux. I am the national focal point for the compliance platform. And when I say compliance platform, we do have something called the St. Kitts and Nevis Anti-Doping Secretariat. And that's the platform where we are hoping and we are working to ensure that we are fully compliant with the UNESCO Convention Against Doping in Sport. We would have signed on to this in 2009, and as a signatory to this, we have obligations. So the obligation is for us to ensure that it's a level playing field and sport on a whole stays clean.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your introduction. But let's go to Sean before we come back to you, Doc. Hearing about anti-doping and the drive and education, it has been something relatively new. Well, we've heard about anti-doping. Ben Johnson back in 1988, was it, with the situation he had. And we've heard of the situation with Kim Collins, with the inhaler and the asthma, etc., when he was accused of doping, but it was found that he was not, he's using that, etc. So why all of a sudden, so to speak, all this thing about anti-doping, Sean?
I wouldn't say all of a sudden. It's now more potent, more palatable for discussion, because I think there was a stigma that anti-doping does not relate to small island states or the Caribbean region per se. However, I don't want for us to focus so much on the shock and awe of by some prohibited substance or one of the reasons why this person was suspended, etc. All the anti-doping focus is on right now is we want people to be competitive, we want people to win, we want people to be committed to the sacrifices and the hard work that comes with participating in various sporting disciplines, but do it in such a way that everybody has a fair chance, the playing field is level. So we're talking about ethics, standards, work hard, give it your best efforts, but do not compromise the sport or your integrity by doing anything that is unethical or, for lack of a better term, means that you're cheating.
As Sean mentioned, it's about a level playing field. So anti-doping is no longer just focusing on performance enhancement drugs or illegal stuff like that. It's about the values of sports It's about the integrity, as Sean mentioned. It's about the passion. It's to make sure that everyone has a fair chance to win. And this is where the anti-doping education comes in, where we have to teach the athletes in every stage of their evolution, from when they get interested in whatever sport they are, to when they're training, to when they become elite athletes. The education breaks down each level to what exactly anti-doping is to athletes in those different stages.
There has been a drive, Sean, for the last few years about us, St. Kitts and Nevis, after we signed on, becoming compliant. Walk us through that, where we were, where we are now, where we're aiming to get, please.
So the backstory, you're asking for the backstory.
Yes, sir.
So we would have been signatories to the UNESCO Convention Against Doping in Sport, and that I indicated earlier was in 2009. Now, being signatories, there has to be obligations. Now, the obligation is to be compliant. Compliant means you have signed on to have clean sport and to promote clean sport across the board. However, there has to be indicators as well to measure how compliant you are. And from the indicators that have been stipulated by there's something called the AD Logic, a questionnaire that asks certain questions that will give you an indication as to how compliant you are. When we did our AD Logic questionnaire in 2019, we were non-compliant. As a matter of fact, far below the level of compliance. We were 33%. And in order for you to be considered even partially compliant, you have to have a percentage of 60% and above. So picture 33% below the 60% marker. So that's where we were. Then we would have had to do, or in order for us to get to a level of compliance, we had to reach out to UNESCO, and UNESCO would have walked us through a number of processes and stuff. Basically, interventions to ensure that we are moving out, or we moved out from that level of non-compliance to the level of full compliance. And that would have included reports, engaging stakeholders and stuff. We have a number of associations and member federations, sporting associations and member federations, who would have been interviewed, have discussions and stuff as to how best we can go to that level, that threshold of compliance. Then we didn't want to risk any sort of sanctioning, etc. So we made sure that we were diligent in our work. We expedited things thoroughly, quickly, and by the end of 2020, early 2021, we managed to reach a level of compliance of 74%. This is where we stand at this moment, and we are working assiduously to ensure that we attain an even higher level of compliance. We have initiated a number of programs and initiatives where we are hoping that we can address the shortfalls. We are trying to focus on, okay, we are 74%. What can we do to reach or to embrace that other 26% that has eluded us for some time now? So that is what we are working on right now.
Thank you very much. Very, very much interesting. And so this is something that each of us, that once we are involved in the sporting arena, we have to be mindful of, as not only the athletes, but parents, coaches, trainers, exactly.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a terminology they used in anti-doping called athlete support personnel. And even to speak towards the anti-doping rule violations, of which there are 11, 7 of them focus mainly on the support personnel. And when we speak to support personnel, we speak to the coaches, we speak to the member federation representatives, we speak to the Olympic Committee, basically anybody that has an impact on the athlete, because all these influence the psyche of the athlete himself. The athlete needs some form of mental support to said, hey, this is wrong, this is the way it should go, right? Anti-doping now is one of the main pillars in sporting. So you can't participate in any sport whatsoever without involving anti-doping. And again, this comes to the values of sports, this comes to the spirit of the sport. In fact, when we speak to prohibited substances, one of the criteria for the substance to be prohibited is that it goes against the spirit of the sport. So we have to take all that into consideration. It's just not the physical, but also the mental drive, the mental outlook that the athlete has.
Before we go to, you're giving us a little idea of the in-depth discussion in Aruba, we have decriminalized marijuana here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I am an athlete, I'm using it, well, just an example, of course.
Sure.
And then I'm told that, hey, I'm violating these. How can that be? Why is that so for those of us who are listening?
Okay, so that has been a back and forth argument or discussion with many of the member federations and Olympic committee, Olympic standards. Marijuana falls under a psychoactive substance. There's an active ingredient called THC that can actually affect the mental capacity of the athlete, hence why it is placed on the prohibited list. It's actually placed in the same grouping as cocaine and ecstasy as substance abuse. So for that reason, it has been placed on the prohibited list. Now, you just spoke about Aruba. Recently, I embarked on a seminar in Aruba where it was basically train the trainers. We had UK Anti-Doping Association assist us. We had the US Anti-Doping Association, and for us in the Caribbean, the Regional Anti-Doping Association. And all three of us came together and brainstormed to decide what would be the right way forward in terms of education for athletes. What will we do? Basically to make protocols and procedures to say, hey, let all of us be on the same page and not one go another way and next one accept another thing. I mean, back to the marijuana, the Latin American countries do not accept the marijuana at all. Whereas because we just decriminalized marijuana, there may be some leeway to us here in the Caribbean, but at the end of the day, we have to follow the international standards. So I do suspect that marijuana will remain on the prohibited substance list for us.
Government and support, Sean, that is very necessary. And not only from a St. Kitts and Nevis point of view, but a regional, as the doc mentioned. And you're just returning from a ministerial meeting with the minister from Jamaica. Could you tell us a little about that, what transpired?
Before I give my response to that, can I backtrack a bit?
Of course.
Because one thing I realized that persons would hear about anti-doping, and some persons are more familiar with the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, and some persons hear me speak about UNESCO, the UNESCO Convention Against Doping in Sport. And people may ask, well, what is the relationship between the two? Is there a difference, etc.? Now, in order for me to somewhat clarify the relationship between the two, let me use an analogy. So you have a neighborhood, and in the neighborhood, you have the neighborhood watch. Persons are fully alert and assertive. Once they see anything happening suspicious, they trigger off alarms. They send messages to residents within the community, etc. But they can't make arrests or anything to that extent. There is a gap when it comes to the enforcement per se of security, because they only have a certain scope to operate with. Now, in order for any arrest, any proactive measure to be taken to ensure that anybody who's infringing on the rules, etc., within the community. That has to be from security or the police, etc. Now, WADA is somewhat like the neighborhood watch.
Okay.
WADA has guidelines, etc. We are keeping an eye to make sure athletes are clean, etc. But WADA does not have the scope to enforce certain things from a country perspective. This is where UNESCO comes into play. So UNESCO is like the police now.
Okay.
So that's where people sign on to UNESCO, because now it's ratified through a globally recognized body, which is United Nations. So that was just to give some scope as to the relationship between two. It's parallel. They are parallel organizations, but they serve basically the same purpose. We are trying to get clean sport going.
I like that analogy. I liked how you you defined it.
So back to the other question now, where you were asking about the recent trip. So just over a week ago, Minister Samuel Duggins and I, we traveled to Jamaica for the third ministerial forum for ministers of sport within the Caribbean region with WADA. And that is basically to address how can we best improve the landscape to ensure that athletes' sport remains clean. And this would have been a two-day forum. We would have had a number of stakeholders there and the Caribbean islands who would have given updates as to how they are coping with, how they are addressing shortfalls and stuff when it comes to doping in sport. We have some countries who would have implemented or who would have already implemented legislation, acts, anti-doping acts. You have Trinidad, you have Bermuda who would have implemented anti-doping acts. So it's not just saying that, okay, to be guilty of taking a prohibited substance, or not just prohibited substance, but to be guilty of doping in sport is punishable by law. That is what Trinidad and Bermuda have already incorporated into their legislative system. The onus now is on other Caribbean territories to enforce or enact acts or laws to ensure that, okay, people recognize how serious we are moving forward. Then you have persons who would have indicated that, to have clean sport is one thing, but to enforce is expensive. And we have a number of small island states who are not in a position to fork out whatever amounts of money. Because I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Archibald, simple things like the mathematics, a simple test, anti-doping test, is about $800 US. And if you want to do in competition and out of competition testing, etc., think about the expense. Let's assume you do 100 tests per year. You see the cost there already. So we are just seeing that's the tip of the iceberg. Logistics, administration, etc. It's expensive. And to be fair, we have small island states. That's the general terminology used for Caribbean territories. But then that still has to be it has to be defined some more when it comes to the Caribbean, because you have Jamaica is a small island state, yes.
Trinidad.
But look at it. If you combine Trinidad and the entire organization of Eastern Caribbean states, you can't man up to the population of Jamaica, but all of us are on the same level as small island states. So the seminar or the forum basically allowed for like-minded persons to come together, stakeholders to address whatever concerns and stuff. And there was some positive news coming out of it, because you had persons or organizations who are well-versed and who are very strong in terms of budgets coming on board to give or pledge further support. You had Canada, the Canada Anti-Doping Organization. They have come on board and have pledged financial and technical support to the Caribbean region. By way of notification, you may hear us talk about RADO. So once you hear us talk about RADO, RADO means the Caribbean Regional Anti-Doping Organization. So as we go further into the program, you'll hear some abbreviations, and we'll try to give you notification as to what they stand for, etc. So it was a fruitful meeting. Partnerships were forged. There was something called the Kingston Accord. That was an MOU that was signed, basically Caribbean countries committing to maintaining clean sport and engaging stakeholders from the region and the international platforms to ensure that we adhere and comply with international standards.
Trinidad and Tobago and Bermuda, as you mentioned, they have anti-doping acts. Were any deadlines suggested or set or agreed to in terms when the other countries will have to get it done, get their acts and laws, legislation in place?
There weren't any specific deadlines, but it was interpreted or conveyed that as soon as yesterday is urgent. Yeah.
As soon as yesterday.
Yes.
I like that. What countries were present at the meeting?
We had Antigua and Barbuda, Bermuda, the Bahamas, Jamaica was the host, the Cayman Islands, St. Lucia, St. Kitts Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago. You had representation from Canada, and other Caribbean territories who are not there would have been represented by the Caribbean RADO. And that includes Dr. Sasha Sutherland, she's the CEO of the Caribbean RADO, and the St. Kitts Nevis Anti-Doping Secretariat has a very, very strong working relationship with the Caribbean Anti-Doping Regional Organization.
Where are we, St. Kitts and Nevis, in terms of our legislation, our act towards the anti-doping?
Let's just say it's not a sprint, it's a long race, and we're just getting started.
You're sounding like a philosopher. Well, interesting, because you mentioned, Doc, that the UK and the USA were at the regional trainer.
Correct.
And you mentioned, Sean, that Canada was at that one. So we have three big dogs, top guns, so to speak, supporting us in our situations here in the West Indies. But how bad a situation is this anti-doping and the use of drugs, or the abuse, whatever you want to call it? How bad is it?
On on a national level, I would not say it's bad. It's a matter of education. Now, recognize that the anti-doping rule violation is not just using the prohibited substances. It's also if you fail to get tested, if you fail to state your whereabouts so that DCO can test you as well. And that seems to be most of our issues here. As we can't find the athletes sometimes, or the athletes do not understand the importance of being tested, because it doesn't stop here nationally. It goes on regionally, and it goes on to the World Anti-Doping Agency. In terms of the bigger countries, well, just the other day I read something about, it was a Russian.
Figure skater?
Correct. A Russian figure skater used a prohibited substance. And once in a while, you see one or two pop up from the large meets. But most of the violations tend to be around the whereabouts of the athletes, finding the athletes refusing to be tested.
I think we had a situation with some Jamaican athletes, cricket, I believe it was some time ago, or track and field. And that's why I like the education element of it.
That is what we are trying to push. It's not fair. If you work hard, let's assume you're doing school. You work hard, you get the exam, and lo and behold, you got 80%, and the persons who were to the back of the class cheated and got 100%. Obviously, it's not ethically good, and at the same time, you feel a type of way. This is what we're trying from the educational perspective to encourage persons to give it your best effort and make sure it's a level playing field. Everybody has access to the same resources, etc. Some persons may say, well, everybody's doing it. No, that's not correct. Everybody's not doing it at all. As a matter of fact, there are some persons who would have done it, but they felt they may have gotten away with it. But guess what? Time, as old people say, time longer than twine.
To add to what Sean was mentioning, there's some athletes in terms of the education just don't know what the prohibited substances are. Point in case, when you mentioned Kim Collins getting in his little issue, he used Ventolin, the neb for asthma. Now, the active ingredient in that is on the prohibited list. So, but there are methods put in place to state that, hey, this person needs this to survive, so therefore kind of exempt him from it. It's called therapeutic use exemption form, where the coach or the medical personnel that belong to the team would put in an application that said that Kim Collins has asthma, he takes this, he's not using it for enhancement of his performance, but he's using it to survive. I mean, he didn't abuse it, but being a small island federation, I guess they would try to look at anything against us.
You're listening to On the Ball here at Win FM 98.9. I'm Troy Biff Mills, your host, and we are talking anti-doping. With us in the studio, we have Dr. Dwayne Archibald, the SKNOC's rep on anti-doping matters, and Mr. Sean Sibooks, the focal point for anti-doping here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and he's also from the St. Kitts and Nevis, the anti-doping secretariat. And we thank you for taking your time out to listen to you. I invited to call in 466-0989, ask any questions, make your suggestions, anything you need clarify. We'll be glad to do that. Or you can send me a WhatsApp, 668-2055, and we will be able to address that for you. Coming out of the meeting, Doc, well, I take it that some or most of the countries that would have attended the meeting in Jamaica would have been present at that meeting.
Correct.
As well in Aruba. Is there going to be a follow-up meeting? Where and when?
The place has not been decided as yet. However, there will be follow-up meetings, especially since these things change annually. I mean, point in case, there's a prohibited list that comes out. Well, it's stated in October, and it comes into effect January the 1st every year. And there's usually a little debate on what should be added and what should be taken off. So stuff like that will come up. So definitely we'll have meetings, I suspect annually, but no word on that as yet.
And taking it closer to home, Sean, what are the plans to approach the education element of it? How are we going to reach the target audience? What is the target audience in the first instance, and how are we going to reach them?
That's a very good question in the sense that we are on the brink of launching our educational awareness campaign within schools, and not just within schools. We are trying to target, or we are targeting the audience, our young persons between the ages of 11 and 15. That's our target audience for right now. And as we would have indicated earlier, we are not just telling them if you take something or if you're guilty of doing this, this is your punishment. That's not what we want to convey. We want to encourage all the athletes. Watch. Give of your best. Put in the work, the hard work. There's a greater joy with victory that comes from an honest day's work and an honest day's reward. Now, the Caribbean, the fact of the matter is we are a small geographical location. When you look at the Caribbean compared to the bigger hitters, the USA's, the Russia, the Great Britain, the Canada, the Brazil and stuff, UK, these are the countries who are accustomed to dominate when it comes to sport on a whole. However, especially when it comes to athletics, Caribbean has excelled. Now, unfortunately, once you excel, guess what?
You become
The
a star.
spotlight becomes
Yeah.
your domain because you are excelling. So we don't be in a position where we are excelling, and lo and behold, when due diligence has been done, we did not attain the best results through honesty. That's what we are trying to eliminate. We are embarking on a program that encourages athletes to be ethically minded, to focus on clean sport, a level playing field. And once that is accomplished, we have made one of the major steps going forward. In terms of our program, awareness program as well, we would have secured funding from UNESCO, and that funding goes towards a program that we have labeled Closing the Gap, moving to full compliance with the Anti-Doping in Sport Convention. And from this, we have done a number of things. Interventions, of course. The first of all was to have the consultant from the Caribbean RADO, Dr. Sasha Sutherland. She was on island and she engaged stakeholders. She engaged stakeholders basically to find out, what do you know about anti-doping? How do you rate the anti-doping program in St. Kitts? What can be done to improve on it? The how, the who, the what, the where, the whens, etc. And she just recently submitted her report to UNESCO. And concurrently, while they are doing their assessment of the report, etc., UNESCO that is, we on the ground are launching our program. We're going to have jingles so persons can be aware as to what anti-doping is. We have the establishment of a logo and a secretariat. We're going to do the official launch of the secretariat. We're going to have added presence at sporting events and showcase a number of videos on various media houses platforms. And also, we're going to have an e-brochure that will be available to students. Dr. Archibald has also committed to doing a number of trainer sessions that would include reaching out to auxiliary personnel, the coaches, chaperones who are around, personnel within the Department of Sport, etc., people who are in close working relations with athletes to ensure that we tackle every possible aspect to ensure that we maintain clean sport, a level playing field.
I like that. I'm remembering two things. A few years ago, St. Kitts and Nevis football team, national senior team, they were going someplace to compete in some tournament. And then shortly before, one of the key players in the team approached the coach and said, "Hey, coach, man, I can't go, because I understand they're going to be testing." And this was somebody who uses the weed. And this was very shortly before. So obviously, the player had to be excluded from the squad. But more critically, Lance Armstrong, the cyclist, for forever, I've been hearing about Lance Armstrong. And I got the impression that he was a universal role model, mastering the Tour de France. And recently, a little while back, it came out that he was doping. So after building all his years, that credibility, and it was shattered just overnight like that. The good thing about it is we have not had known of any situations, and I like the approach. It's not to say the penal element, you do this, you're going to happen. Why it's important, the benefits of you having clean sport. You go and you perform. I mean, if you get broken, fine, but if you win, you're not head up. Well, I did it and I'm top of the world, and they could come and tell us I'm clean. So that is important. When do you see your program starting in terms of working with the auxiliary personnel, etc.?
Well, Sean would have reached out to me already, and we actually have timelines. Now, let's remember that this is an Olympic year.
Correct.
So we want to start as early as between January, still February, March, April. Those 3 months, we need to target these athlete support personnel. I think Sean and I have discussed in February to reach out to the coaches at the Ministry of Sports. I would have reached out to some member federations already to say that, hey, we need to have this discussion happening. And of course, the athletes themselves, we have started already before the Pan Am Games last year and before the Commonwealth Games. We gave some form of education, not as comprehensive as we have now, but we did. And we even introduced them to an online platform called Adele, which was compulsory for these athletes to participate in so that they have some idea of what is anti-doping. I mean, I can even speak to when Bunting medaled silver
In the 200.
For Pan Am. He was aware of that, as Sean said, they would target him. And he was like, hey, doc, they're going to call me. Please come with me. And he was there. He went through the process, and I was there to make sure that everything was okay. So the awareness is there. It is getting there, but it's a long race and not a sprint.
Definitely. We are committed to ensuring that we reach out to all the stakeholders. Stakeholders not only means the athletes, but the athlete support personnel, the different member federations and associations, because we want persons to recognize that the joy of winning, the joy of competition is not about leaving a legacy that's tainted. It's about being able to compete and knowing full well that you gave your best and accepting certain positions, because I won't lie to you, sometimes the pressure can be overwhelming because, athletes get injured and athletes want to recover in quick time. Let's assume the pressure that's on somebody who we all know the person is the best 100-meter person in the Caribbean. And just before the mega event, Olympics, the person gets injured. The pressure is awesome because that person fully aware mentally that they're the best, but they're injured. So there's the pressure to take prohibited substances to speed up the recovery process, etc. There's some persons who feel like the competition is going to leave them, so they have to do something to get the added edge, etc. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's peer pressure. In many instances, we have had situations where the athlete wasn't the mastermind behind the whole issue. It was the support personnel, whether the coach, etc. So we are trying to reach out to all the stakeholders and let them know, watch, we want to create a culture that's based on ethics in sport. It's ethics, clean sport.
You mentioned Adele, Doc. I know there's a singer by the name of Adele. I don't think you're relating to her. But for the listeners, give a little idea what this Adele is about quickly, please.
Okay, so Adele is an online anti-doping. Adele stands for Anti-Doping Education. Learning, right.
That's a platform.
It's an online platform. It has the components for the doctors or the medical personnel, has a component for the athlete, and it has a component for any other support personnel, inclusive of family members. So they basically type it in the computer and go on, and there are certain lectures that they will give, no longer than 5 minutes, and then some question and answers, just to ensure that there was some retention of the information that was given.
How can the man on the street help with this entire program, Sean?
Everybody has a role to play with the educational aspect. And I would have had some pointers here to address or to help us when it comes to combating doping in sport or promoting clean sport. First, we have spent quite a bit of time talking about the educational aspect. So education and awareness, that's critical. So there has to be comprehensive anti-doping programs for athletes, coaches, support personnel, etc. Raise awareness about the dangers of taking prohibited substances, etc. But also, we have to raise the profile of the importance of fair play and ethical behavior in sports. So that falls under the educational aspect, testing and monitoring. That's something we have to talk about. That's inclusive in the doping or anti-doping process. Conduct regular and random testing. Use sophisticated testing methods. Why? Because, old people say, when the police make one step, the thief makes two. So, obviously, when the doping control officers take one step, the athletes are 2 steps ahead, etc. We have to have intelligence gathering, because you may suspect things, but somebody else may have inside knowledge and stuff. And of course, we have to give the assurance that you can give information with strictest confidence on the condition of anonymity. We won't relay, etc., who disclose whatever and stuff. It's about making sure there's a level playing field. Then you have stricter sanctions. We have global collaboration. We're talking about the partnership we have with the regional anti-doping organization, etc., with WADA, with the Canadian anti-doping organization, with USADA, United States Anti-Doping Agency. So established connections, networking, etc. You have athlete support services. Don't just let the athletes feel like, all because they're trying to catch me. That's why they're reaching out. No. You build that relationship, you highlight, you accentuate the positives, and accentuate the good things. Because when you say positive and anti-doping, that's the next thing there. So accentuate the bad things. And also, it has to have ethical leadership seminars and stuff like that. Technological innovation, rehabilitation and support. If this happens, how do we rebound from it, etc. And also, force, last but not least, public awareness campaigns. And this is where we are headed with the launch of our anti-doping program in St. Kitts Nevis, which is going to be in the next 2 weeks. So it may not be a good thing in terms of a lot of refreshments, etc., but it will be something that is hard-hitting, impacting, and it's going to course to make a significant impact.
Gentlemen, we are just about there, and I'll give you an opportunity to highlight anything that we would have missed. Doc, anything you want to re-emphasize?
Yes, I need to emphasize what's called strict liability in terms of the athlete. Even if the athlete is encouraged by support personnel or peer pressure, they have to be aware that whatever they put in their body is their responsibility. They would be the ones facing the consequences in terms of the ban or whatever penal methods that we implement on them. So strict liability to the athletes, be responsible for what you put in your body.
Thank you very much, Doc. What about you, Sean?
Well, right now we are on the brink, as I said, of launching our anti-doping in sport program, and it's working closely with UNESCO and the regional anti-doping organization to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis attains the targeted improvements in relation to prohibited substances and the use, etc. And we're also trying to ensure that we have the creation and full implementation of an anti-doping in sport teaching module that is associated with youth activities for youth between the ages of 11 and 15. That's the targeted audience right now. And it's about local awareness raising activities, events, training of virtues in anti-doping in sports directed at youth, schools, sports clubs, and sport monitors across the federation. So it's a holistic approach to get holistic results.
Gentlemen, very educational indeed. And from what I'm hearing, it tells us that we have a little bit of work to do, well, to put it mildly, so to speak. And I thank you, Dr. Archibald and Sean, Mr. Sibooks, for taking time out from your busy schedules to be here with us to educate the population of St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course the residents, about the good things, how it is to enjoy your victory, the moment, once you've done it in a proper manner. I like the examples you use. Yes, Sean?
Well, I just wanted to express our heartfelt appreciation to our local partners, our stakeholders. It's not last but least, but it's major. So we want to always express our appreciation to the St. Kitts Nevis Olympic Committee. We also want to express the appreciation to the regional anti-doping organization, to the Ministry of Sport, because these are the stakeholders that ensure that the wheel still turns. So all stakeholders, we are not just reaching out to you.
International, regional, international?
Yeah, UNESCO, WADA, Canadian anti-doping organization, etc., all our stakeholders. We are not just reaching out to you when the storm is upon us, but when there's calm, we're also going to reach out and always appreciate your support, because it's a worldwide, it's a global affair.
Thank you very much, Sean. It has been indeed very, well, I should say extremely educational. And this obviously was just the first of many. We hope to have you back here at various intervals to share with us what is happening and the education, and so we could make sure that St. Kitts and Nevis, we're a clean country. We have been listening to On the Ball here at Win FM 98.9. I am Troy Biff Mills, your host, and it was indeed my pleasure being here with you. I thank all our guests for being here. Dr. Dwayne Archibald, Mr. Sean Seabrooks, we had Mr. John Bergen and Mr. Gavin Bell from Scaba. And I do invite you to tune in again with us next week, Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. when we'll have another edition of On the Ball here at Win FM 98.9. And we would like you to partner with us. There are sponsorship opportunities. Please call 466-9586, or you can call me, Troy Biff Mills, 668-2055, and we'll be able to work out a sponsorship partnership arrangement for you with On the Ball. I say thank you to my technician Jamster. He's been with us, and we look forward to being with you again next week, Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. here at On the Ball. As I slip away, I encourage you to always be positive in your thoughts, in your words, and in your actions. Thank you. Have a good night.